Yes, hello. I'm good. How are you? Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. Uh, get some rest and yeah, take care of you. Busy, busy, to be very honest. A lot going on. Building up my own product right now. And yeah, it's a lot of fun, but it's still a lot of work. Yeah, sure, sure.
Can you hear me now, Alexandra?
Yes, I can hear you.
Perfect. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. This is Startup Talent Q&A 162. We've been doing these for just over 4 years now, and we've had 280,000 people tune in. None of that would have happened without people like Margaret and Alexandra who are with us today. Hopefully, we'll have another one join us soon. In the meantime, if we can all turn our mics off, please, because it's creating a bit of an echo, that would be great. So let me make Margaret a presenter again. Hopefully, you won't have the same issues again, Margaret. Can you hear us? Are you audible? Yeah. Margaret, if you wouldn't mind downloading the app, because for some reason this doesn't seem to work for you. Um, that would be great, please. And then maybe try and log in via the link that I sent onto our group on LinkedIn. Your mic is enabled because I've just made you a presenter, but it's the way you're joining that it's kind of creating this issue, I guess. So if you wouldn't mind doing that, perfect. Right, Joe. So we are here for for Startup Talent Q&A. It's our 162nd session. We've been doing these for over 4 years to try and help founders with whatever questions you may have as you build your business and as you build your team, whether you want to know how and where to find the right people, perhaps how to interview them, how to hire them, how to maybe empower your team or build your employment brand and all that jazz, really. Hopefully, let me see if Margaret now, let me make you a presenter again, Margaret. Let's see how that works. Okay, can you hear us now, Margaret? Are you audible?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Finally it works. Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so we're going to be here now for you can't hear me because I've had my mic off and I've been talking like an idiot for the last half an hour. I'm sorry. Can you hear me now, people?
Yes.
Jesus.
Yes.
I'm sorry, ladies. Right. So, oh boy, let's start again. For those of you that are on the live streams, whether you're on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram, please be aware that we are unable to monitor your questions there live. So if you do want to ask us anything, you'd have to join us here on Microsoft Teams. It's audio only, and the quickest way you can do that is by going to our website, startup2scaleup.club, and then find today's session, which is Startup Talent Q&A 162. Click join. That's a quick registration, which gets you a link to your email with how to join us here, basically. And then it will take you straight onto our call. Because it's audio only, it means you can join us from anywhere via any platform or device. In terms of today's questions, we are taking questions on anything to do with talent. So whether you want to know how and where to find the right people, maybe how to interview them, how to convince them to join you, or perhaps how to actually work out a job spec or an advert, or maybe how to decide who does what. Or perhaps you want to go a bit further and talk about how much you're going to pay them and who's going to be their point of contact, or maybe how do you actually empower them, or how do you build your employment brand, and anything basically to do with your people journey within your startup. This is the place to be. If, however, your questions are not on talent, then please save them for the other events that we run. Mondays, obviously, as you can see today, it's talent, but then Tuesdays, it's product and tech. Wednesdays, growth. Thursdays, fundraising. Second Friday of each month, it's UK startup law. And third Friday of each month, it's UK startup finances. They're all from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time, and you can RSVP to any of them via our site, startup2scaleup.club. Now, the way we're going to do this today is we will have some quick presentations from our panelists, and then we'll ask them for their biggest do's and don'ts when it comes to early stage hiring, and then we'll start taking questions from yourselves. So I'll start. My name's Anton Cole. I'm an Albanian in London working with startups normally right after they get investment. I embed within their teams and help them hire and keep the right people. I also do some growth advisory work with a few other startups and some angels and some accelerators rather. Lately, I've been helping some family offices and angels with their due diligence and their assessments. Perhaps we can start with Alexandra, then Margaret, and then hopefully Sarah Emily is also audible. Take it away, ladies.
Hi, I'm Alexandra. Yeah, I would consider myself as a recruitment expert, not just because I'm doing this since 14 years, but I also founded my own company and now helping companies to in their recruitment processes. So I'm mostly helping actually small and mid-sized companies, everything what belongs to recruitment. I've been building up teams in the US, in Brazil, in Europe, and obviously also in Germany. And now I'm working on my own product, recruitment product, which I hopefully will launch end of this month.
Amazing stuff. Thank you very much, Margaret.
Hi everyone, my name is Margaret Bui. I have been working in recruitment for 20 years actually, recruiting for tech companies of different sizes, both large tech companies but also tech startups. And I've been hiring across all different functions, all the corporate functions and engineering in Europe, well, across EMEA and also in the US. Apart from recruitment, I've done a lot of interview training and coaching, and I'm happy to help with anything related to hiring, training and interviewing.
Thank you very much. Sarah Emily, are you able to talk? Are you audible?
I should hope so.
Brilliant. Take it away.
Hi, thank you. So my name's Sarah Emily. I go by SE. I've been working across the talent and people space for just over 17 years now, which is scary to add that up. Over the last 5 years, I've also been much more involved in the ops side of things. So I currently take care of everything talent, people, and business operations for a medtech startup. Primarily work with seed through Series C. That's my comfort zone. Happy to help in all topics, hiring people, talent, and kind of broader questions further down the line as well.
That is brilliant. That is a literal stellar panel. Thank you very much for joining us today, ladies. We appreciate your time, and perhaps we can get some do's and don'ts when it comes to early stage hiring that you have often seen founders get wrong or get right. Maybe if we can think of one each, and let's not use the same logic for both, please. And don't worry about repeating what you might have said before, because we unfortunately tend to make the same mistakes over and over again. Maybe we can start with Margaret, then SC, and then Alexandra, please.
Sure. So you mentioned just one each, yes? One do and one don't.
Yes, please.
Okay, so one of the do's would be to hire for, well, not just for someone who's done the job before, but also hire for cultural fit and growth potential. So in early stage companies, flexibility, curiosity, and alignment with your values are often more valuable than exact experience. You obviously need someone who has experience, but you also want someone who cares about your mission, who can adapt as the company grows, and who's willing to build from scratch. So ask some situational questions and consider trial projects to assess mindset and potential. And in terms of don'ts, I would say don't overpromise, the dream. Like, be aspirational, but be honest as well. If the role you're hiring for involves chaos, long hours, and or ambiguity, say so. Because high growth companies, they still have constraints, and candidates deserve to know the reality. So I wouldn't say we'll IPO in 2 years, unless you actually have real indicators. Instead, just say, like, here's what we've achieved, here's what's next, and here's where you can help us grow.
I think it's me next, so I'll step in. Fully agree with Margaret's points there. I think for me, I'll start with the don'ts. It seems obvious, but I'm sure myself and the rest of the panel have had this quite a few times before, but do not hire based on your personal relationship or friendship, dare I say, with somebody. Someone being a great friend doesn't make them a great colleague. It doesn't make them a great hire. And I have seen it often. In fact, family members are probably the most common most common addition that I've seen that ends up not working. And then, frankly, the reason why someone like myself is brought in to help kind of tidy that up. That's my don't. I know it sounds scary, but yeah, I think it's one that's often forgotten, and that over familiarity. And in terms of do's, very similar vein actually to Margaret. I think for me, one of my biggest do's is do make sure that you're delving into someone's actual skill set. Very often we can become quite phased by the experience that somebody has, or we're really impressed by it and then want to hire on the basis of that. But actually, if we think about early stage, right, that's what we're talking about here. If we're thinking about the earlier stages, if you were to hire somebody who has operated in the upper echelons at XYZ massive company out in the market, the likelihood is that once you scratch beneath the surface, they're not a doer, they're an overseer. And so for me, my biggest do is really delve into the experience, the hands-on nature of the experience of the people that you're looking to hire. There we go. I hope that's helpful. I'll hand over to the next person.
It's probably me. Thank you so much. I would like to change it a little bit today, because I have been to kind of a congress in Germany, and I had the feeling that a lot of people are still super afraid of AI. So what I want to say is, like, especially in recruitment, where you can automate a lot, and also especially when you're in the beginning, and maybe it's not your focus right away to automate processes, etc., but try to implement AI. So this is my do implement AI right in the beginning for recruitment. I think this might be a super big help for you. And also, if you have maybe an expert already in your team in recruitment, or you do have hiring managers which had experiences in recruitment, it's easier for you to implement those automated processes, and it might also help you to find easier employees for you. So this is my don't be afraid of AI, and really try to use it also in recruitment. Of course, it's still a human business, but nevertheless, there are a lot of opportunities to use AI.
Well, thank you very much for that, ladies. Really appreciate it. Right, Gio, I think it's time we move on to some questions. Quick reminder, we are here for Startup Talent Q&A. It's our 162nd session. We've been doing these for, just over 4 years now, where we've held well over 2,000 founders, and about 280,000 people joined us in the process. Obviously, none of that would have happened without people like our amazing panelists here today. So if you ladies would like to add in your LinkedIn URLs in the chat, please feel free to do so in case anybody wants to reach out to you. On the other hand, just a reminder, we're here to help you with whatever questions you may have in terms of your startup talent journey. The idea is quite simple. If you're in the chat here with us on Microsoft Teams, simply drop your question in the chat. We'll then give you the mic, and then we will ask the panelists. If you, however, are on the live streams, whether that's LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram, please be aware that unfortunately we are unable to monitor your questions there live. So you'd have to join us here on Microsoft Teams. It's audio only, which means you can join us from anywhere. All you have to do is simply go to our site, startup2scaleup.club, find today's session, which is Startup Talent Q&A 162. You click join. A quick registration will get you a link to your email, and through that link you can then join us here on Microsoft Teams, and it's audio only. Questions can be on anything to do with talent, from how and where you find the right people, how you interview them, how you test them, how you pay them, how you train them, how you hire them, how you build your culture, all your employment brands and all that jazz. There really are no wrong questions, and there's no need to be shy. If, however, your questions today are on other matters, please save them for the other events we run. Monday's talent, Tuesday's product and tech, Wednesday's growth, Thursday's fundraising, second Friday of each month it's UK Startup Law, and third Friday of each month it's UK Startup Finances. They're all from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time, and you can RSVP to any of them via our site, startup2scaleup.club. And actually, when you're on our site, you may also want to join our WhatsApp community. There's a WhatsApp icon at the top and bottom of the site where you can join some amazing groups of founders, investors, and operators on WhatsApp. And now we'll go on to the first question whilst we wait for some others to drop their questions in the chat. So, going for Series A medtech startup in New York, where we create diagnostic software for radiologists. I want to implement HR metrics to track employee performance and engagement as our team grows. With a lean HR budget, which key metrics should we prioritize that will provide a well-rounded view of our team's performance and satisfaction? Furthermore, how can we effectively use these metrics to identify and address any emerging issues early, ensuring that we maintain a supportive environment in a high-stress field like medtech? Perhaps we can take about a minute each, ladies, so we can start with SE, and then we can go to Alexandra, and last but not least, Margaret, please. Take it away, ladies. Sarah Emily, can you hear us?
Yes, I'm so sorry. I had someone
That's
come
okay.
at the same time. Right. Okay, so the question is just for my understanding. I just want to make sure I've got it. So small medtech.
By the way, it's in the chat as well, Sarah Emily. If you check here on Microsoft Teams, I posted it just in case.
Fantastic.
I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Go for it.
Okay, so there's a few different schools of thought, and I think actually it's very culture dependent as to how successful any measure such as this will be. Right, how effective this will be very much depends on how you what the culture is like within the business. And the reason I say that is if you don't have a culture of open communication, you can do as many eNPS surveys as you like. But they will not give you the information that you're looking for because you will not be getting the kind of response or honesty that you would need in order to really be able to kind of garner great results from that. But an eNPS is a great place to start if you have the culture that you're actually also able to respond to it. Now, you say you have a lean budget. So the other piece that makes me a bit more I guess, hesitant to recommend an eNPS survey is that you will need resources to react to and work on the feedback that you're going to receive. So if you're not ready for that kind of thing, some other pieces that I might look at as a good indicator are things like your turnover rate, absenteeism rate. So these are the kinds of things that are easy to measure and monitor and will give you a good indication as to how people are feeling. But again, for me, I am hesitant to go towards an eNPS unless you also have the resources to follow up on it, because there is nothing that kills engagement faster than putting out an eNPS survey, so an employee engagement survey, and then not responding to it or not reacting to any of the points raised as a cause for concern. So there's a piece of advice on that. Further things that I might look at are kind of more well-being based metrics. So you're looking at kind of average productivity, use of sick days, that kind of thing. And those might be some of the pieces that I would look at to monitor engagement and well-being and how engaged people are. So I would have a bunch more questions before I would give you anything specific. And I certainly don't mean to be negative about the use of eNPS, but again, if you implement something, you have to be ready to respond to it. So I do hope this is helpful.
Amazing stuff. Thank you very much, Alexandra, and then Margaret, please.
Can you repeat the question, please, again?
Of course. And by the way, all the questions that I pose are in the chat as well, ladies, if you want to have a look at them. But the this one was, we're going for Series A medtech startup in York, where we create diagnostic software for radiologists. I want to implement HR metrics to track employee performance and engagement as our team grows. With a lean HR budget, which key metrics should we prioritize that will provide a well-rounded view of our team's performance and satisfaction? Furthermore, how can we effectively use these metrics to identify and address any emerging issues early, ensuring that we maintain a supportive environment in a high-stress field like medtech?
Yes, gotcha. Thank you. I will go a little bit more deeper into this maybe performance metric, and maybe this might be helpful. So I'm a huge fan of competencies, and you can start with evaluating the competencies of a candidate, or evaluating a candidate towards competencies. What do I mean with this? So you need to understand what kind of role and what are the expectations for this role you have. And towards those expectations, you create kind of a competency matrix in sense of, okay, I give an example, this person needs to be very detail oriented. So how do you define detail oriented, and what does it mean being detail oriented, maybe from a scala from 1 to 5, and then you go ahead maybe with 5 to 7 competencies, and you're not just recruiting those new people into your team within those competencies, but you keep those competencies and to really evaluate their performance during their stay at your company towards those competencies, and also trying to understand, okay, where can this person be better, and why, or where is this person already doing very well. So this might be also with a very low budget. You can create this, and it's not very difficult to create, and therefore you can also really, it's kind of a number game in the end, and you really can calculate the performance of your employees. I hope this makes sense, and I hope it helps.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Yes,
I
Mark.
think, yeah, no, great advice from everyone. So I was going to say, not that much more I can add, but I was going to say start with metrics like employee retention rate, voluntary turnover, time into productivity, and I was going to say the NPS score, but I completely agree. If you don't have the resources to act on that, I wouldn't even bother doing that, because it definitely kills the engagement if you get feedback from your employees and then you just don't do anything about it at all. But for performance, I would use OKRs or any kind of goal completion rates, peer feedback, manager check-ins. That could be done via monthly pulse surveys. It could be in one-to-ones, just to spot any patterns in motivation and output without needing complex tools. And yeah, like you can also use lightweight tools like Google Forms, Trello, or free versions of Lattice, or there's another one, I think it's called Office Vibe, to collect feedback regularly. But in terms of like the performance, especially in a resource constrained environments, measuring that performance doesn't need to be complex, but I think it has to be intentional. So of course you can set some like clear specific goals or OKRs. So each team member should really have a small number of measurable objectives that are aligned with your company's priorities. So maybe if it's a software engineer, may have like key results like ship, version 1.2 of the diagnostic platform with less than 5 bugs reported in a production, because that gives them both focus and clarity. Definitely have your managers or team leads hold short one-to-ones to discuss progress, roadblocks, or priorities, because that also lets you assess whether someone is consistently moving forward or stuck. And you also want to track project deliverables on timelines. Like, are people actually delivering what they committed to? Are deadlines being met or missed consistently? So again, you can use some very simple tools like Notion. We use Notion a lot at Mixmax, Asana, or even a shared Google Sheet to track outputs from the team. And of course, like, any kind of self-assessment and manager reflection quarterly. So have each employee reflect on their achievements, what went well, what they would do differently, and then their manager can add their perspective. So that kind of two-way view encourages ownership and helps spot misalignments early. And if you're looking for like a free or low-cost tool to support this, you can use Google Forms for quarterly reviews, Slack or Loom for async updates, and Trello or Notion to track OKRs or projects.
Thank you very much, ladies. That is amazing stuff. We will now go on to our next question from Coffee. Coffee, are you audible?
Yeah, hi.
Good man. Please introduce yourself, Coffee, and then fire away with your question. And when you introduce yourself, maybe go into some detail about where you are with your app.
Okay. Yeah, hi, my name is Kofi Fano. I got an idea that I'm working on at the moment. It's an app. It's a fun and gamified app to learn African languages. So I'm on, on the startup. I'm really quite at the beginning of the app. So basically, right now myself, I'm using AI to design the wireframe of the app, but I need to work with a developer to do all the back end and develop even further the app. So my question is, how do I find a developer that I can work with on an equity basis rather than paying them? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Coffee. Coffee,
yes.
If I remember correctly, you're based in London, is that right?
Yes, I am. Yeah. So yeah, I'm in London. Yeah.
And what is your background? Like what is it you're doing now, and what is it you've been doing so far?
So I'm working in hospitality right now, and but I got my degree in land surveying and engineering product design.
Okay.
But I'm not doing anything in that basis right now. I'm just working in hospital.
I see. No worries. Well, thank you very much for that. I'll give you my quick 2 pence and then I'll pass you on to the ladies. In my experience, unless you find a friend or somebody who has as much passion about this as you do, finding somebody, especially if you haven't got like a successful exit in the past, or if you haven't really got some strong connections in the industry, finding somebody to do it for free is going to be next to zero. Although there may be a route whereby, on top of the friendship route that I mentioned, whereby you find somebody at some university, whether it's in the UK or overseas, who does this as part of a university project, and they end up doing it for free for you. Otherwise, the chances of finding somebody just for equity, again, it's not, it's different for people that have maybe exited a 200 million pounds business. Then it's easier for them, right? But somebody at this stage, I think the chances are next to zero, and that's my experience on it. But would love to hear from the ladies. So maybe we can start this time with Alex, then Margaret, and then Sarah Emily, please.
I'm sorry, I'm not 100% sure if I understood the question correct. Could you just repeat it again, or just?
So the question is, how can I find a developer that comes to work with Coffee for equity instead of payments?
I think it's a very difficult question, and it's quite similar what you just mentioned, right, Anton? It's also like finding a friend, or it's also sometimes difficult to find a friend. I wouldn't recommend this, I think. So why wouldn't I recommend it? Because it's always like, of course, it's if it's like also you do have good shares, or like you do have some equity, maybe you will find someone, but still companies are looking for good developers, and I'm not 100% sure if you find this really good developer without paying him a salary. But these are just my opinions, so I'm not 100% sure what kind of answer you are expecting. So I will forward it to someone else.
Thank you very much, Margaret.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. Like, why would anyone want to work for free, right? So I actually think it's next to impossible, unless, like as Anton said, if you've had an exit already, I think, potentially, like if you're clear on your vision, if you're already showing traction, like early users, partnerships, prototype, yeah, you might find someone inexperienced, but you will not find an experienced developer willing just to work for equity. It's just real life doesn't work that way. So I think what I would potentially look at is like look for developers who are passionate about African culture, languages, or education. So there could be some relevant Slack groups, there could be some subreddits, there could be some forums. I wouldn't know which ones because that's not my area of expertise, but I would look at some specific like forums or those groups, and universities with African studies or computer science departments, they also might be open to collaboration. So I would maybe look at universities, like someone who's already a pretty good coder and maybe they just want to get some work experience, because I really don't think you will find someone experienced to work for free. And I think, you really like, I don't think you're hiring an employee here, right? Like you're bringing on potential co-founder or a founding team member. So I would treat it that way and sure, like be transparent, about equity or commitment, long-term opportunity. But in general, like any skilled developers, they will not work full-time for free. Like I think you're much more likely to attract someone who's maybe open to contributing part-time, evenings or weekends in exchange for equity if they believe in the mission and trust you. But also, I think developers are more likely to say yes if you already have some traction. If you have a very clear go-to-market plan, if you have really clarity around roles and equity split. If you don't have that, I think work on that first, because otherwise I think it's going to be impossible to attract the right person.
Spot on. Thank you very much, Margaret. Last but not least, Sarah Emily, please.
So I have to say, I do agree with the points raised over kind of questioning how realistic that is in light of people needing to pay bills, etc. But I really want to pick up a point that Margaret made on this. Sounds a little bit more like a co-founder potential situation, because it sounds like the skill set is distinct from yours. So I also agree, actually, before I go on to say the next point, I also agree that you'll need a very clear outline of what you would be willing to offer and what that means for them in terms of the split and the package and all the rest of it. But there are communities where you might be able to dig into this a little further. So there are a few kind of co-founder matching platforms that you might want to have a look at. I'm happy to post some of the names, but like Wellfound is one of them. Co-Founders Lab is another. Start Talk, like those are places where you might want to take a look at that. And then there are also actually platforms that help you look for technical student or university entrepreneurship clubs, that kind of thing, university tech clubs. So there's the Y Combinator's work at a startup piece there. You might want to take a look at that. There are also, in addition to that, a couple of startup communities where you could luck out, right? Sometimes people are, more often than not, people are looking for to earn salary, but some are willing on these communities to look at equity-based pieces, maybe on a part-time basis, something like indie hackers or product hunt makers, like that's a couple of other things. Again, I will happily post these into the chat so you can go and take a look, but much like everyone that has spoken before me on this topic, I very much agree that one, you need to be very clear about what you're offering, and two, this doesn't sound like an employee piece. You may want to reconsider and look at the option of adding a co-founder with a different skill set and network, and that might actually open up new doors for you. Anyway, I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. Yeah, so right now I'm already using Co-Founder Lab and Wellfound. So there's a couple of people that are interested. So I was on the show last week as regard to the legal side of it. So at the moment, we're trying to decide on the NDA that they'll be signing. So that's why I came to this one just to see if there's other side that I could be using. So yeah, thank you very much for your output.
Very welcome, buddy. But again, as you can see, the overall view is that unfortunately, to find somebody just in exchange for equity is going to be tough. If you can find a way to put some money together to find somebody overseas who will work for much cheaper maybe a student who wants to make some money on the side. What's your family background, Kofi?
Yeah, I'm from West Africa.
West Africa. So what I'm saying is maybe where your family is from, there may be connections that you can find at some university where people, want to make some money on the side as they're studying. But that means you would have to kind of cough up that money yourself, right? So, but just finding it simply in exchange for equity, that is going to be tough. Again, if you had,
Yeah, tough, but not impossible.
pardon?
Tough, but not impossible.
Nothing is impossible, but the
Exactly.
idea is what you want to do. You want to focus on sort of the path of least resistance, right? Because if you're going to spend months and months and months trying to find somebody to build this, and you get nowhere, then you've just kind of spent all this time. So maybe try and be creative about it. Basically, that's the point I'm trying to make.
Okay, yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Best of luck, and thank you very much for joining us. Right, we've only got 20 minutes to go. So if there's anybody here who would like to ask questions on how to build your team right, in terms of your startup, whether that's finding, hiring, keeping, empowering your people, please feel free to do so. For those of you that are on the live streams, whether that's LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram, please be aware that unfortunately we are unable to monitor your questions there live. So you would have to join us here on Microsoft Teams. It's a audio only call. You can do that by simply going to our website, startup2scaleup.club. Once you go there, find today's session, which is Startup Talent Q&A 162. You click join. It's a quick registration. That gets you a link to your email, and through that link, you can then join us here. Now, once you're here on Microsoft Teams, all you have to do is drop your question in the chat. We'll give you the mic, and then you can ask the amazing ladies on our panel. By the way, there are no wrong questions, and there's no need to be shy because it's a learning curve for us all. However, if your questions are not on talent, please save them for the other conversations we run. Monday's talent, as you can see today, but then Tuesday's product and tech, Wednesday's growth, Thursday's fundraising, second Friday of each month it's UK Startup Law, and third Friday of each month it's UK Startup Finances. They're all from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time, and you can RSVP to any of them by our site, startup2scaleup.club. And now, without further ado, I think it's time to go on to another question that was sent in, and the ladies can read that in the chat, but I'll read it out loud for the live streams. So I'm a co-founder of a seed stage edtech startup in Canterbury that develops educational games for children with learning disabilities. I'm trying to build an interview and assessment process that accurately evaluates candidates' empathy and creativity, as well as their technical skills. Given our limited budget, what cost-effective assessments or techniques can we use to measure these qualities? Plus, how can we structure interviews to identify candidates who genuinely align with our mission of inclusive education? Wow, that's an amazing question, although a $1 million question, and you can't even be bothered to join us here. Nevertheless, let's see what the ladies got to say on this. So I think this time is, let me just see who starts. I think, right, let's start with Sarah Emily, because now I've missed the role in which we've been going in the past few questions. So Sarah Emily, Margaret, and then Alexandra, please.
Hi, sure thing. Okay, so in terms of the interview structure, I think I would tell this person the same as I tell most people. You're not Google. You don't need to go and put three people through 8 to 13 steps of interviews. However, thinking about the particular focus that they would want to have on this process, considering the product and the end user, I'd probably go for a 3-step process. So your initial screen that focuses on kind of mission and empathy. And then you would have to really evaluate how they work, which really comes through in the question, is that, again, you need to be super aware of the end user. I do a collaborative working session, or like a live technical assessment is what some people call it, as your second round. So you could have it slightly longer. You watch their behavior, you watch them problem solve, and then you can live make sure you're kind of testing the waters with them. And then I would have a final interview for kind of team fit and a deep technical fit, that kind of thing. That's kind of how I would structure an interview process. If the focus is what the question has said the focus is, that's how I think you would get it out of that person, rather than paying any kind of external platform fee. I don't think I've come across, and I've run all sorts of assessments on people, but I don't think I've come across a tool that assesses the variety of skills that you're looking for, because they're very human skills. So you need to make sure that you have interviewers that understand what to look for, what a red flag is, and how to ask good questions. So what you're better off doing is investing the small budget that you have into an expert who can curate for you some interviewer training, and spend it on that instead. So then your interviewers know what they're looking for. They know how to assess for things. They know what good and bad look like, what good and bad answers look like, what good and bad behavior looks like, that kind of thing. I suppose for me, again, focusing on low cost as well, which is something that was mentioned a fair amount. You'll want to consider a few things within that interview process. So you're looking for kind of mission alignment, which came across quite heavily in the question that was asked. But you're also going to want to make sure that there is kind of equity in how things are seen. And so what I mean by that is you're going to want to make use of the peer group, if any, that you have both internally or potentially externally. If you look at maybe investors will have someone else in their portfolio that would be of a similar level. So really focusing on peer groups can be a really helpful way to make sure that someone has alignment outside of the core skill set, the technical skill set. So I think, well, I hope that that's useful, but I think that kind of addresses a few of the different pieces. And again, the very short version is I actually wouldn't spend money on tools, because I don't think you're going to get the quality from an external tool or assessment compared to the topic that you're looking to assess in particular. Anyway, I'll hand over to one of my fellow panelists.
Thank you very much, Sarah Emily. I think we said Margaret and then Alexandra, didn't we? Margaret?
Yeah, so firstly, I really agree with getting interviewer training, and the interviewers really need to understand what they are looking for, because otherwise you can waste so much time with interviewers who are not aligned, who don't know what they're looking for, who don't know what good looks like. So that's so important. But again, I kind of agree, like you don't need to necessarily pay for an expensive assessments. So to evaluate empathy and creativity, you can build some structured interviews around scenario-based questions tied to your mission. So for example, tell us about the time you created something for a user group with a very different needs than your own. Or how would you approach designing a game for a child who has difficulty with reading or attention? These kind of prompts, they help reveal both empathy and creativity through real-world thinking and values alignment. So I would definitely prepare a few questions you can ask. And you can also try some creative task-based assessments. Like I am, in general, a huge fan of some kind of a task during the interview process where you can assess how the candidate would actually behave on the job. So forget about like expensive psychometrics. You don't need that. You can ask shortlisted candidates to complete a small design or content challenge depending on the position. For example, ask them to sketch or outline a game idea for a 6-year-old with dyslexia that teaches basic math in a fun way, because that will give you insight into how they think, whether they've actually researched learning disabilities, and how committed they are to the mission. And for empathy specifically, peer interviews or mini panels can also help. So you can have your candidates meet team members from different functions, especially ones interacting with your user base, which I guess would be teachers, parents, etc. Right? So just to observe how well they listen, adapt, and ask questions. And also finally, like always, include questions like, what draws you to inclusive education? How has that shown up in your past work or personal life? I find that authentic passion is hard to fake, and this just helps to separate genuine alignment from surface level interest.
Thank you very much, Alexandra.
I don't think I do have anything to add. I'm completely agree actually with Margaret in the sense of trying to find situational questions to really figure out again, like this comes back to those competencies you're looking for, which I just explained. And I think it's also like, as it already mentioned as well, that you really define those properly, really create good questions towards them to really assess those competencies and to really align with the whole interview panel what you're looking for, and then evaluating the candidates towards this. And you can use this with different AI tools. Use ChatGPT, it definitely will help you. And also, yeah, ask yourself when you're using ChatGPT, for example, when you use ChatGPT, ask yourself, okay, is it still really like asking this kind of question? Is it still figuring out what do I want from this person? And this might definitely help. So you don't need particular find a tool for this. Most of them are quite expensive. Another tip maybe also, if you have those interviews, maybe you can use a Gemini to really evaluate after the interview what you or team members have been asked, and did you really evaluate your competencies or what you wanted to figure out, and yeah, adjust and improve yourself during this whole interview process.
Thank you very much, ladies. I'll quickly add something. A large portion of my life's work in talent has been with assessments, mainly assessing for much larger companies, mind you, because more often than not, startups simply haven't got that luxury. But I would do, I'm not going to get into the technical side of it because we then need to know which job it is for and what essentials are required and all that stuff. But I would do 2 or 3 things during an interview process. One, I think the ladies here mentioned questions, especially situational ones. There's something called the STAR method. So situation, task at hand, action that the candidate took, and the end results. And I would try and maybe focus on 3 such questions there. One, for them to tell you of a time that they were particularly empathic towards somebody, or they showed extra layers of empathy. Number 2, a time where they were with a colleague or a boss or somebody who was higher than them, and that person didn't show empathy and how they dealt with it. 3 is for them to tell you about a time where they were, or they should have shown empathy, but they didn't, and how that situation evolved. And 2 more things in terms of actual role plays. Number 1, before the interview, maybe tell them to do some research and come and tell you which of our competitors out there is doing something that this company is not, and why do they like that. And last but not least is do an actual role play. I think Margaret touched on sort of creating maybe a game or something within those lines, but it could be anything. It could even be just a fictional phone call between a client's parents whose game is not working, and they called up to ask for help. They can go very far in terms of helping you with it. Now, we have 8 minutes to go. I think we've only got time for maybe 1 or 2 questions. So I can see there's a few of you here. Please don't be shy. Simply drop your question in the chat. We'll then give you the mic and you can ask our amazing panelists on anything to do with your talent questions. So what I'm going to do, I am going to copy and paste one here anyway, but then we might have time for 1 more question. And by the way, live questions are way better than just sending questions in writing. So where is it? I've just posted it, ladies, if you want to read it in the chat, but I'll read it out loud for the live streams. As the co-founder of a pre-seed circular economy startup in Swansea, where we develop digital platforms for recycling and repurposing waste materials, we're considering hiring a part-time payroll specialist to streamline payroll management for our growing team. With our limited resources, what affordable tools could this specialist implement to ensure timely and compliant payroll processing for both in-house and remote employees? Additionally, how can we structure that role to include oversight of equity-based compensation, ensuring accurate tracking and distribution of shares? Perhaps we can start with Alexandra, then Margaret, then Sarah Emily, please. Take it away, ladies.
I can't answer this question. I'm not. I don't know. So I will
That is
forward it to
perfect.
this person.
That is the best thing to do in these cases, Alexandra. I would rather we said pass than try and make things up. So brilliant, Margaret.
I'm happy to answer, I guess, partially this question. So in terms of the payroll tools, because they mentioned remote employees as well. So, well, there are tools like Gusto, there are tools like Deal. Mixmax uses Deal for remote employees, but mind you, we use a different one for permanent employees in the States. So, so yeah, I would look at tools like definitely Deal and Remote for international remote workers. But I believe they also support compliant payroll for in-house workers as well. So have a look at Remote, have a look at Deal. Deal and Remote are very similar. I've also heard of, as I mentioned, Gusto and Payfit. So have a look at all of them. And if you only have UK-based employees, there's something called Bright Pay. So maybe just have a look at that, because like that's the kind of platform that can help you automate tax filings and pay slips and pensions contributions. So yeah, so that's what I would say. But also, let me just think in terms of structuring the role. Yeah, I mean, I think all I can say here that you just really need to define the core responsibilities clearly. You know, like I guess they will need to ensure compliance with UK payroll regulations, process presumably monthly pay runs, maintain employee records and tax documents, and collaborate with accountants for filings, and support onboarding from a payroll and legal stand-up perspective. So yeah, that's all I can say. Yeah, not an expert in payroll. And Anton, I do need to leave in 4 minutes. So yeah, just to let you know, I need to drop off on time.
Don't worry. Thank you very much, Margaret. All the best. Who was next? Sarah Emily, please.
Hello. This is interesting because I have recently done something similar, so I have a few points to add on this. So first of all, I agree on tools like Gusto and Payfit for the UK specifically. I've also used ADP for specifically for the US. One of my former clients had quite a significant piece there, but actually also Xero is really good. So I think that's how you pronounce it, because it links in with virtually every HR system I know. So actually you can automate a lot of it. And then Pento is another one. I realize on the slightly bigger side, but nonetheless, all of these are worth. And I'm happy to drop all the names in the chat if that's helpful. They're all a really similar price range, I would say. So so worth looking at. In terms of remote people for international, I've used Oyster. A lot more than Deal. This is just my own personal experience. Has been much better with different suppliers, so that's why I've gone with them. But that's not to say that my experience is the correct one. Remote.com actually equally positive. So yeah, lots and lots of different tools for you to take a look at. Sometimes it's down to personal preference, so worth looking out for that. In terms of like equity pieces, I mean, there's a lot of different things out there. If you want to start off on the free end, obviously Google Sheets is a good one if you're going to be on the G Suite anyway. But once you're ready for I guess a little more I don't know, detail and a bit more input, you may wish to look at CapDesk and like Seed Legals. And actually on the smaller end, there's another one called Cake Equity, who it's actually free for under 25 people. So so a bit more rigorous than the Google Sheets, but I guess once you're above and beyond the kind of 5 people, you might want to look at something that is just a little easier for everybody to reference. So so there's a few. I don't want to go on too much. I will again drop the names per the last question into the chat, and I'm happy to advise on anything, or pass on to anyone I know at any of these companies to have an initial chat.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, ladies. There are quite a few out there, but in terms of free ones, you can actually get the likes of Iris, and there's a few others that are actually free for minimal stuff that you may need. And the rest you could probably ask ChatGPT so as to how you can then do that via Excel. If you're then looking for for paid ones that have a lot of features, then some of the names that the ladies brought up here are quite well known and very useful. Vedantru, you've asked a question in the chat. We're building an AI voice agent tailored for businesses. As a young startup without a big brand name yet, what's the most important thing we should focus on to earn trust and actually get our first few customers? This is a question either for tomorrow, Vedantru, on our product and tech call, or for Wednesday on our growth call. So please feel free to join either or both of them. You can do that via our website. We are now going to wrap this up. So Margaret, if you're still here, we can give you the mic for a quick parting words. If not, then maybe we can go to the ladies. So I think Margaret's left. So let's start with Alexandra, who joined first, and then Sarah, Emily. Ladies, any parting words for us?
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for this really good questions. And now recruitment is not easy, especially in the beginning. But again, coming back to what I said in the beginning, try to use AI. AI is your big best friend, actually, also when it comes to recruitment.
Thank you very much. And last but not least, Sarah, Emily. And by the way, both you ladies, I am extremely grateful because we had last-minute cancellations and both of you stepped up to save the day. So I'm really thankful. Sarah, Emily?
Yeah, just thank you very much for having me. And if I can offer any assistance, feel free to get in touch. I'm happy to share my trial and errors of the past for things that have worked well for me. But again, all of these things are subjective. So I would encourage everyone to do their research, definitely take advice from everyone, but make sure it's right for you. Because I've also seen a solution work very well with one client that didn't work at all for the next. So again, thanks for having me, and make sure you do your homework.
That's pure gold. Thank you very much to all of you. Huge thanks to everyone that joined us, those that tuned in via the live streams, whether that's LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram. We have not answered your questions because we can't monitor those live. So next time, please join us here on Microsoft Teams. It's audio only, and you can register or RSVP to any future session via our site, startuptoscaleup.club. We run 6 regular sessions: Monday's talent, Tuesday's product and tech, Wednesday's growth, Thursday's fundraising. Second Friday of each month, it's UK startup law. Third Friday of each month, it's UK startup finances. They're all from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time. And you can RSVP to any of them, as I said, via our site, startuptoscaleup.club. And actually, when you're there, what you may also want to do is join our WhatsApp community. We've got some amazing groups of founders, investors, and operators that you can join to engage with peer-to-peer. I'm posting the link to our WhatsApp community anyway here in the chat, but you can also find the WhatsApp icon at the top and bottom of our site. As far as my parting words are concerned, just remember the startup journey can be both exciting but also quite challenging. So try to have some fun in the meantime and be kind to yourself and everyone else for that matter too. Hopefully you can join us tomorrow for Startup Product and Tech Q&A, where we'll help you build your early stage. Thank you and God bless. Bye-bye for now.